Marcellus jumped in and gave an explanation of what happened between Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman was the former co-host of First Take with Stephen A. Smith. Marcellus and Max Kellerman have a long friendship that dates back to college. I believe they both went to Columbia University in New York. They've been friends forever. They worked together in radio at ESPN, friends out in Los Angeles. They have a connection. Stephen A. has been running around taking shots at Max Kellerman in certain interviews. He's doing this intentionally. It's calculated. Max Kellerman is in Stephen A. Smith's rearview mirror. It's been odd to see Stephen A. stomp on Max Kellerman's grave. And he's been doing that, kicking dirt on Max Kellerman when Max Kellerman's out at ESPN. And so I get why Marcellus wanted to jump in and defend his friend and set the record straight from Marcellus's perspective. Let's play the clip of Marcellus talking about Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman.
Stephen A.'s First Take, the show wanted Max to speak for white America. That's that balancing act. You remember that model? It still exists, but it was really the model. Black, white, all right? We got, highbrow, lowbrow, right? Uptown, downtown, streets, boardroom, all those damn dynamics and contrasts that everybody was lazily just buying into. And especially when you lose Skip Bayless, you get Max. Now, it's not just Max speak for white America, but that would allow Stephen A., brother, get to speak for black America. Now we got it. And then Stephen A. felt like he was going to be the king, even though he was already on the best show, #1 rated show, I should say, because I'm speaking for my people. Oh, how empowering. Not only am I #1, but I'm speaking for my people. Okay, now here's the problem. Stephen A., the entertainer, had to meet Max Kellerman, the educator. And boy, that was a class that had a different lesson plan. Stephen A. realized quickly that he was dealing with a whole different animal, especially on black issues, especially on societal issues, especially at that time as we're going closer to George Floyd, to pandemic, and Colin Kaepernick was already on the scene. He started to realize he was getting outshined in those conversations. Outshined for these reasons, and I know these reasons, because Max Kellerman is not only a historian, he has a degree in history from Columbia University, same school I went to, Ivy League school, but the dude is a bona fide genius. Like, he is next level brainiac, for real. High school test scores off the charts. Like, next level dude. I'm just giving it to you like it is. And Stephen A. Smith has admitted many a times how he had his own learning disabilities and issues growing up. So that is, no matter how much he has advanced past that, and you can see the immense vocabulary, etc., and his intelligence on display, it's an insecurity for Stephen A. because he speaks on it as how that was an insecurity.
Marcellus has described the problem between Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith as an insecurity issue for Stephen A. Smith. And there may be kernels of truth in that. But I primarily disagree with Marcellus's take on that respectfully. And I'm aware, again, Marcellus, very close to Max Kellerman, and I understand why Marcellus may have that take. I disagree with it. I think Stephen A. actually had excellent, justified reasons for wanting to get Max Kellerman off of First Take. And I'll explain that here in a second. But before I do that, I'm going to let you hear Stephen A. Smith on his own podcast, The Stephen A. Smith Show, give his partial explanation or response to Marcellus Wiley.
I got mad love for all of my colleagues. Marcellus Wiley was one of those people. I'm sorry he's gone from ESPN. I'm sorry he's gone from FS1. I hope whatever it is that he's doing, and I'm assuming it's something more than just his podcast because the brother's bright as hell. I wish him nothing but the best. If I saw him, the only thing that I would say to him is, bro, really? That's what we doing now? A black man is scared of the intelligence of a white dude? Really? In the year 2023, we gonna say something like that? Because I can assure you, I ain't scared of nobody. Not when it comes to intellect. You know why I'm not scared? Because either I'm just as smart, if not smarter, or I learn from their intelligence and it makes me more intelligent. So I'm always winning. I'm always winning.
Stephen A. Smith, not being honest here. Let me walk you through it. And I said this previously. If Stephen A., and give you a couple of examples of just how he was dishonest in that conversation. He says he wants to do no harm and says that how much he loves Marcellus and he's not going to disrespect him. But the first thing he says in a passive-aggressive shot, clear as day, it shouldn't go over anybody's head, I'm assuming he's doing more than that podcast because, he's a really super smart brother. What he just said was a shot at Marcellus. I'm Stephen A. Smith. I got First Take. I'm making $10 million a year. I'm hoping that this Ivy League brother, Marcellus Wiley, is doing more than a podcast. That was a shot at Marcellus Wiley. Clear as day. After he said he wasn't going to take any shots. But again, he's not in a position where he can be honest and say what he really thinks. So here's what happened legitimately between Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. And I got into this a little bit last week, I believe, when we talked about this. But I want to explain it even in more detail. And because this is where I disagree with Marcellus Wiley. What Max Kellerman did and was doing to Stephen A. Smith throughout their time together on First Take, Max Kellerman was trying to damage Stephen A. Smith's reputation with the black audience. Marcellus talks about, we didn't show you the clip where he went into detail about how Max grew up, knows more about rap music, Max has the right position on Colin Kaepernick. Marcellus basically insinuated that he agreed with Max Kellerman's position or take or the way he was seen as he's blacker than Stephen A. Smith. And I explained this to you all last week. Max Kellerman, in his right mind, should have defended and not put Stephen A. Smith in that position where Stephen A. would have the audience questioning his blackness. Now, the entire conversation about Stephen A.'s blackness or anybody's blackness is stupid and silly. But it is what the social media world has created, where there's a single group of people, black people, whose skin color or identity is completely attached to their worldview. Somehow, this dark skin of mine goes away because I have a biblical, Christian, and what they define as a conservative worldview. Stephen A. Smith, we've been watching him try to play this dance. He goes on Fox News. He pretends to be friends with Sean Hannity because Stephen A. Smith, there is some old school conservatism to Stephen A. Smith, but he knows he can't live that out authentically and survive at ESPN and survive in corporate media and corporate TV at this time. They don't allow it.